Today in this session, we'll be learning about the new topic of capital structure theories. These theories or approaches explain the relationship between cost of capital, capital structure, and value of the firm. In other words, we will try to understand in what manner the choice of capital structure, or we can say the debt financing, affect the value of the firm. We have four approaches. First is net income approach, then we have a traditional approach, then is operating income approach, and Modigliani-Miller approach. So Modigliani-Miller approach is also called approach. Further, these approaches are segregated into two based on relevancy theory. Relevancy here means whether the capital structure decision is relevant to the value of the firm. In simple words, if the firm increases or decreases the debt proportion or equity proportion, would that affect the value of the firm? Here net income approach and traditional approach are relevant theories, and net operating income and approach is irrelevant theory. We won't be learning in depth regarding the valuation and formulas, but rather we will be going through each approaches with their concepts and characteristics. Before going into these approaches, we need to look into certain assumptions based on which these theories are derived. First one, there are only two kinds of funds used by the firm, that is debt and equity. Any other funds are assumed to not exist. The total asset of the firm are given. The degree of average can be changed by selling debt to purchase shares or selling shares to retire debt, which means that the firm can either reduce the debt proportion to increase equity or reduce the equity proportion to increase the debt, but no new additional issue can be done. Taxations are not considered. The payout ratio is 100, which means there is no retained earning. Whatever earnings are available after paying the interest is directly considered as dividend. The firm's total financing remains constant, which means the debt plus equity is constant. No new chances for additional financing is provided. Business risk is constant over the time, which means no new risk is gonna affect the value of the firm. The firm has a perpetual life. So these were the assumptions. So let's see the first approach. The first approach is net income approach, which is based on the relevancy theory. According to this approach, capital structure decision is relevant to the value of the firm. An increase in financial leverage will lead to decline in weighted average cost of capital, while the value of the firm as well as market price of ordinary share will increase. Conversely, a decrease in leverage will cause an increase in overall cost of capital and a consequent decline in value as well as market price of equity shares, which basically means an increase in financial leverage will lead to decline in weighted average cost of capital, while the value of the firm as well as market price of the ordinary share will increase. To understand this, let's see what actually is the financial leverage. We learned earlier that financial leverage is EBIT by EBT, and the difference between EBIT and EBT is interest, which means that the higher the financial leverage, the more is the interest, and the more interest means the more is the debt accumulation. So higher financial leverage means the company has more debt in their balance sheet, and we know that the cost of debt is lesser than the cost of equity. So here more debt or financial leverage will decrease the weighted average cost of capital, as cost of debt is lower than the cost of equity. Further, when the cost is less for the company, that will increase the value of the firm and also the market price. We will try to understand this concept with the help of a table. We have here in this table the leverage, which is basically the debt proportion with comparison to the equity, which is 20%. That means the rest of the 80% is equity proportion, and similar fundamentals for the 30 and 40. As per the net income approach, it says that as the leverage increases, the cost of debt and cost of equity will be constant. But due to that, the weighted average cost of capital will fall, which explains that as we acquire more debt rather than equity, the weighted average cost of capital has to fall. So we can see in this chart, when there is no leverage, which means the leverage is zero, the weighted average cost of capital was maximum. Then as the leverage or debt increased, the weighted average cost of capital for the firm start to fall. So net income approach says that with increase in leverage, the cost of debt and cost of equity will be constant, and so weighted average cost of capital will decrease. Therefore, with that the value of the firm will increase. The second approach which we have here is net operating income approach. Net operating income means earning before interest and tax, which is EBIT. According to this approach, capital structure decisions of the firm are irrelevant. Any change in leverage will not lead to any change in the total value of the firm or market value of the shares. So simply it means that the overall cost of capital is independent of degree of leverage. As a result, the division between debt and equity is irrelevant. And to prove this explanation of irrelevancy, the approach says that an increase in the use of debt, which is apparently cheaper, is offset by increase in equity capitalization rate, that is cost of equity. This happens because equity investor seeks higher compensation as they are opposed to greater risk due to existence of fixed returns securities in the capital structure. In simple words, when the proportion of debt increases in the firm, that means the firm is exposed to greater risk, and in turn equity shareholders will be demanding higher compensation for the new exposed risk. That's why the cost of equity will increase with the increase in leverage. Here in the table we can see that the leverage is increasing, so the cost of equity will also increase along with that, but cost of debt remain constant. With that, the chart explains the movement of weighted average cost of capital. So we can see the weighted average cost of capital is constant throughout the change in the leverage, which can be explained by the advantage of having more leverage or debt is lost due to the equity investor demanding more compensation for the risk of debt accumulation. So there is an offset of change in leverage, and that's why the weighted average cost of capital becomes constant. So it does prove the net operating income approach, which says that the increase in leverage won't change in the weighted average cost of capital. So the value of the firm will not change with the change in the leverage. Then third approach which we have is traditional approach. This approach favors that as a result of financial leverage, up to some point cost of capital comes down and value of firm increases. However, beyond that point, reverse trend emerge. The principal implication of this approach is that the cost of capital is dependent on the capital structure, and there is an optimal capital structure which minimizes the cost of capital. So this approach is an addition to the both approaches earlier. Under this approach, the rate of interest on debt remains constant for a certain period, and thereafter with the increase in leverage it increases. The expected rate by equity shareholders remain constant or increase gradually. After that, the equity shareholder starts perceiving a financial risk, and from that optimal point, the expected rate of return will increase faster. As a result of the activity of rate of interest and expected rate of return, the weighted average cost of capital first decreases, then increases. The lowest point on the curve is optimal capital structure. This we will try to understand with the chart. So here leverage is increasing, cost of equity is also increasing but at a slower rate. But after a optimum level of leverage, the cost of equity is also increasing rapidly. And the cost of debt here was constant until it reaches the optimum level, and after that it also started showing inconsistency and started to increase. So as per the traditional approach, all three costs behave differently without being constant throughout. The weighted average cost of capital or the total cost dips down at a lower level range, then it also increases when the cost of debt breaks the constant streak. So this chart explains the traditional approach, which says that the capital structure decision does affect the value of the firm, and the optimum capital structure occur at a point where the value of the firm is highest and the cost of capital is the lowest. That is the point A in the chart, which shows the optimum capital structure. The last approach which we have here is Modigliani-Miller approach, also called as approach. It is based on the irrelevancy theory similar to the net operating income approach. The net operating income approach is definitional and conceptual and lacks behavioral significance. It does not prove the operational justification for irrelevance of capital structure. However, Modigliani-Miller approach provides behavioral justification for constant overall cost of capital and therefore total value of the firm. So this approach is also in same line of the net operating income approach, but this approach gives an operational justification regarding the constant overall cost of capital and why the cost of equity starts to rise rapidly after a certain level. Modigliani-Miller have given two approaches at a different time period. First approach which doesn't include tax and the second one which does include tax. As per approach 1958, which is without tax, this approach describes in a perfect capital market where there is no transaction cost and no taxes, the value and the cost of capital of the company remains unchanged irrespective of change in capital structure. The approach is based on further additional assumptions like capital market are perfect, all information is freely available and there is no transaction cost, all investors are rational, firms can be grouped into equivalent risk classes on the basis of their business risk, non-existence of corporate taxes. As per the approach, the structure of capital does not affect the overall cost of capital. It is evident by the above diagram that the average cost of capital is constant and not affected by the leverage. The operational justification of approach hypothesis is explained through the functioning of arbitrage process and substitution of corporate leverage by personal leverage. Arbitrage refers to buying assets or security at a lower price in one market and selling it at a higher price in another market. As a result, equilibrium is attained in different markets. We'll try to understand this with a little more. The concept of arbitrage and equilibrium we can understand by taking two identical firms of which one has debt in the capital structure while the other does not. Investor of the firm whose value is higher will sell their shares and instead buy the shares of the firm whose value is lower. This they will do because the firm with debt has higher risk and other firm which does not have debt is providing similar return with lower risk. They would therefore be better off with that. This change in the ownership of the shares will happen until both firms' value reaches the equilibrium. So the value of levered firm can neither be greater or nor be lower than the unlevered firm according to this approach. The two must be equal. There is neither advantage nor disadvantage in using debt in the firm's capital structure. Therefore, as per approach 1958, regardless of financing mix, the total value of the firm stays same. The second model of approach was given in 1963. This model was amended by incorporating taxes. They recognize that the value of the firm will increase or cost of capital will decrease where corporate taxes exist. As a result, there will be some difference in the earnings of equity and debt holder in levered and unlevered firms, and value of the levered firms will be greater than the value of unlevered firm by an amount equal to the amount of debt multiplied with corporate tax rate.